Hey everybody, coming to you on Wednesday afternoon. A couple hours ago on that field over there to my right, Bryce Eldridge tossed his bat as high as he possibly could. He didn't remember doing it, watched it back on a reporter's phone in the clubhouse later and laughed at it. But just an insane moment, insane way for this series to end. And I think a moment where we just kind of have to step back and just kind of think about what we're watching. Giants lose two out of three. Giants are 13 games under 500. It has not been a good season, but this does feel like one of those days that years from now we might look back and think about this was maybe the start of the Bryce Eldridge era. It feels like that's saying a lot, but he also is this is who he's supposed to be. Like this is what he's here for. He is somebody who wants to be in those moments. He's somebody who wants to be the leader of this team. He's said over and over again since he was drafted, he wants to be the face of the franchise. He talks constantly about being up there on the Mount Rushmore of the San Francisco Giants. And those are very lofty goals. And then you go out and do something like he did on Wednesday, and you can kind of see it, and you can kind of see where this is all going for him. He caps just an absolutely insane day here at Oracle Park. One of the craziest wins they've ever had here. First time since 1947 that they've been down by 8 runs heading into the eighth and still won a game. Ends obviously with Bryce's grand slam, but Matt Chapman, a huge part of it. Rafi Devers with the homer as well in the eighth. Tony Vitello said Chapman came back after his homer in the eighth and said stranger things have happened. And then Devers homers as well, and they all kind of in the dugout start talking about, hey, what if you do something crazy? It's a bad bullpen on the other side. They took advantage of it, get 5 runs in the eighth, keep it going in the ninth right away. Never even got an out in the ninth. The Nationals didn't. So a couple pitchers in that inning, and it ends with Bryce, and it ends with his moment. And it was really interesting to watch in the moment, but for me, this is kind of a culmination of 3 days. Monday night, he comes up in a similar spot, not the bases loaded, but two guys on in the ninth. And he just was really upset with the plan he had going into that at bat against Gus Varland. He takes a couple pitches basically down the middle at the knees, a couple strikes, falls behind, and then strikes out. And you could see the frustration from him on Monday after that. I talked to him on Tuesday afternoon about it. Just what was he looking for in that at bat? What did he see? And he was still really annoyed on Tuesday about that. And the one thing he said to me as he headed to the cage was, it was a learning experience, and I'm looking forward to the next opportunity. And lo and behold, Wednesday, here it comes. And, a single would have been fine. A walk to keep the line moving would have been fine. But Grand Slam, that's pretty special. And I think my main takeaway from it, we did the podcast right after, talked about this quite a bit with Cole Kuiper, is it just kind of makes you wonder where all this is going for Bryce. It does look like he's certainly going to be the first Giants position player prospect in a while to fully live up to the hype. Casey Schmidt's a good homegrown story. Elliot Ramos is a good homegrown story. But just in terms of being like top 50 prospects, Luciano obviously busts out or ends up being a bust here in San Francisco. Luis Matos has that big early stretch as player of the week and never builds off of that. They just haven't had this for a long time. And I think Giants fans are so accustomed to development failures. And Bryce looks like a tremendous success story and looks like he's going to live up to who he's supposed to be. And I think beyond that, my thought even before the Grand Slam is you start to wonder where this is headed for him because he's supposed to be a power guy who strikes out a lot. Right now, he's not striking out a whole lot. I mean, it's not he's not Jung Hoo Lee, he's not Luis Arias, but he's at 22% in terms of strikeout rate through today's game. He's walking almost 13% of the time. And that's why I do a WRC plus of 154, which he doesn't have enough plate appearances to qualify for any leaderboard currently. Probably not too far away from looking at some of those rookie leaderboards and where he stands in the rookie of the year race and all that if he keeps going like this. But just for context, 154 is where Corbin Carroll is right now. 154 would be tied for 12th in the big leagues with Corbin Carroll. So this is what he's doing right now. And he's doing it, I think, without fully tapping into the power yet. He's been doing it with really good plate appearances. He's been doing it with contact lately, just making better contact. He was really focused when they sent him down on striking out less often, and he has done that since he came back. So there's going to be ups and downs for him. He's 21 years old, but I think the ability he has shown at 21 and what he has shown the last couple weeks, the last 2, 3 weeks, the consistency, the growth, that kind of tells you maybe got to take the ceiling off this guy. And then the other thing I would just add to that is there's a personality aspect to this, and he has wanted to be this guy since he got drafted. He talks so openly about it. I've interviewed him multiple times for TV, for Giants Talk, and it's funny how often he says the exact same thing he said today. I want to be the face of the franchise. And if somebody else said it would come off as arrogant, but I think his teammates look at him and go, he is going to be that guy, and they're not really bothered by it, and it does look like he's going to arrive pretty quickly here, and maybe be that guy sooner than later. So it does change a lot, I think, of the way the Giants should view the next 6 weeks, the next 7 weeks before the deadline, and view going into the offseason, because there was some question about what is this full year going to be like for Bryce. And remember, he got called up kind of as an emergency because they have that horrible road trip in Philly and Tampa, and then he shows up with Jesus Rodriguez. They don't play him a whole lot right away. It's not too long ago that Tony's talking about his ability as a pinch hitter. And then today, Tony, after the game, is like, we had a long conversation before this game about where he hits. I'm very curious to see where he hits in the lineup on Friday. Like he looks like this team's most dangerous hitter right now. There have been other guys. Chapman has been really good the last week. Devers had a good May. Adames, Schmidt, all these guys have had their moments. Jungwoo Lee is the hottest hitter alive right now. But it does feel like we're getting pretty close to a point where you just look at Bryce Eldridge and go slot him in where you want to slot him in long term, and start to figure it out around him. Start to figure out long term what this looks like with him and Devers, and what you have to do. So I think the fact that he has shown what he has shown this quickly is really an important moment for the Giants. It reminds me a little bit of like, you have these guys arrive, like Tim Lincecum arrived, and it's like, okay, what's the rotation going to be like now with Lincecum and Kane? And Buster arrives, and you're like, okay, you got the face of the franchise here. It's been a long time since the Giants had somebody show up like this and just take over. And Bryce is doing that. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody with the team today. It's a little reminiscent of Logan as well, where you just go like, that guy's going to be a leader of the clubhouse. That guy's going to do everything you want him to do with the media, with the community, with all that, and also is going to be one of your best players. And Bryce looks like he's ready for all of that. Maybe slightly, people might say you're overreacting to a June 10th game, but I would just say you look at what he's done the last few weeks, and you look at the body of work now, and who he was in the minor leagues, who he was before he got drafted. And we talked to him today, and he cracked a line about like, I was never going to be in an office. I always wanted to be a baseball player. I always wanted to be a star. He always wanted to be the face of the franchise. Once he got drafted, he talks openly about it. So I think the fact that he's living up to that and doesn't feel that pressure is really important. And I've made this comparison a lot because I've interviewed Bryce Harper a few times, did it for my book most recently. And he just reminds me a lot of Bryce Harper in terms of personality, in terms of just this like endless confidence, but it's cocky at times, but I think it also doesn't rub people the wrong way. And it's the type of confidence you want to build around, and the type of confidence you want teammates to embrace. So it's no accident he grew up idolizing Bryce Harper and grew up watching Nationals games. And I think he's picked a lot of that up. And then you see the talent, you see the power. And again, just the most important thing, the contact skills, and what he's been able to do lately. So Bryce Eldridge caps what otherwise would have been a horrible series for the Giants. It's a weird spot because this is one of the coolest moments they've had at this ballpark. The walk-off grand slam from the 21-year-old. By the way, youngest player ever to hit a walk-off grand slam in the big leagues. He passed Roberto Clemente, of all people, for that record. He got a little emotional when that was brought up in the clubhouse. I think he's wanted to be great, but sometimes you hear those stats and those names, and it still kind of shocks you. So I think that did with Bryce today. But the weird part now, there's this great moment. They also very nearly got swept by the Washington Nationals. Monday is obviously one of the low points of the season. I do think that's going to be the issue for these guys. There's more than enough hitting here, if they're hitting the way they're supposed to, and a lot of guys more recently have done that. The issue is going to be, can they close out games, and not only against teams like the Nationals, but against better teams, teams that challenge you a little bit more late in the games. They do have that ongoing issue in the ninth inning. Happened on Monday with Keaton Winn. Tony Vitello tries to stretch him out 3 days, and they told Logan he was done, and then went back to check on him. You can't do that with a starting pitcher. He kind of shut it down. He was told he was done after 8 innings, and then you're in this weird spot where then you turn to Keaton 3 days in a row. First time he's done that, and he blows it. So it's weird, a weird series. One of the low points of the year, and then obviously the high point of the year with Bryce, all in a matter of 3 days. And it is kind of where they're at right now, just an inconsistent group. You would never expect the San Francisco Giants, of all people, to not have enough pitching to get through a summer and get on any sort of run. But it's like an emergency right now. And you did see it from Tony on Wednesday, or on Monday. That's an emergency situation, trying to figure out how you can get those final 3 outs and stretching someone beyond what they've done before. which you would almost never do in June. It's more of like a September move, a postseason move to do that with Keaton. But Tony's desperate right now to find a way to lock up some of these wins, and you saw that on the road trip as well. It's just really difficult for this pitching staff to close teams out. So a weird spot to be in for these guys. The move the next few weeks probably for him, just try to outscore people. Try to what you saw in the eighth and ninth, keep the line moving, keep Chapman in a groove. You have Bryce in the middle of this now. Get Devers going again. It's been slow for him in June until today. Arias has been great. Jung-Hoo Lee's the hottest hitter alive, chasing a batting title. I think the move right now for them is just try to outscore teams because they just don't have enough pitching. And the weird thing is they probably have to trade some pitching as well, given the position they're in. They do have guys in AAA who can come up. Carson Whisenhunt has been really good. Joe Whitman was tremendous in his debut. Tugboat was not very good the first time out in AAA, was very good the second time out. Really curious to see. I mean, he's kind of 89, 90, 91, but people can't catch up to his fastball. So those are all guys. Blade Tidwell has had his moments there in AAA as well. Those are all guys who can help out at some point, but certainly it's gonna chip into their depth even more as they go into the deadline. Like you can hear it. I'm hearing it from other teams already. You hear it from people around the league. People are looking at the San Francisco Giants and saying, you know, how much are they going to sell off and what's going to be available? Robbie Ray's the obvious one. Luis Arias is an obvious one as well. Um, People I'm sure are going to ask about Logan. People are going to ask about some of the other guys on this staff. So a spot that they're in right now where you feel pretty good about the offense the last month and where they're at, and Bryce being part of this, and Jung-Hoo Lee finally looking like the guy they thought they were bringing over from the KBO. But trying to figure out where the pitching is going to come from is going to be really difficult the next few weeks, and it might be even more difficult in the second half after they make some trades. Although staff hasn't been very good to begin with, so maybe it won't be as hard to fill those holes in the second half. But overall, a strange spot. They're still 13 games under 500. That's still a really disappointing series. But I thought it was a really important moment and one that, I do think if this goes according to plan, we're going to look back on and look back on this franchise that does have Bryce Eldridge on the main poster outside Oracle Park next year and for years to come. And they're going to build this lineup around him, and I do think they have to build this team around him long term if this is who he's going to be. And you have the advantage now. It's like having a quarterback on a rookie deal. He is starting his clock here. He's pre-arb, so he's going to be cheap for a few years. They might regret not signing him to one of those like AAA deals that we've seen become popular, but this is for me kind of the start of a new wave heading into the deadline and thinking about, okay, this guy has arrived. He is what you thought. He might be better than you thought. He might be better than what everybody thought, and looks like he's ready for it. And, now how do you best build around him moving forward? I think that's maybe overreaction, but that is what I came away from on Wednesday, just watching the way he handled that moment.